is practical karate just become Bunkai karate?
Well, that is a question. Has practical karate become bunkai karate?
And first, we need to define what practical karate is, because as previously has been said, whatever your training goals are, if the karate works to those goals, it's practical. But I think what people understand by the way of practical karate, it's karate that can be used to defend yourself in a outside situation should everything kick off. So if we use that description as the definition.
So the one issue we've got there, just to
Mhm.
make it even more complicated, and I think we had this conversation. If you listen to our whole back catalogue of podcasts, someone somewhere will find us having a chat about what is karate.
Mhm.
So if we can't even define karate, how can we define practical karate? Because we can't even find the denominator. So we're a bit fucked, aren't we, really?
Yeah, which is, like I say, it's basically what I'm looking at for practical karate is you turn up each week dressed in your white pajamas. You've got a grading system still, but
Or black pajamas.
you think you're training, yeah, or anything but camo, but you think you're training specifically with a goal towards self-defense.
That's how I would define, or how I'm assuming, yeah, people define practical karate. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll use that as our benchmark then for this discussion, shall we?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a big debate all in itself, but if we do that,
yeah,
that's the narrow focus that we're looking at.
yeah. Because, like you say, practical for what? Yeah, because it could be yeah, training for the WKF World Championships. My karate is practical for that, if that's what I'm. Yeah, but we'll go with the self protection
Yeah.
because that's what we all seem to think it is. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I think everyone, I'm not going to say everyone because I have met one person who disagrees with that. Everyone who does karate, and probably especially practical karate, believes that it's useful in a physical altercation. I only ever met one person on a forum many years ago who said, no, I don't believe that's true. I do karate for completely other things. You think, well, it's a bit weird that you're doing karate. I think they were just trying to be a bit of a dick, frankly. But I mean, you don't go to karate thinking, oh, yeah, this is not going to help me in a fight, do you? That's
I don't know because, again, coming back to the kids class thing, are people really sending their children to karate class to learn how to fight, or are they sending them there for physical exercise, socialization, and discipline training,
I
or
think
get them out of
they,
the house.
or to
yeah,
get
I
them out
think
of
they
the
send
house
them there
training?
for all of that because the posters say it does all of that.
Yeah.
So I think they probably send them there because they think they're going to get a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
Um, but we just had a couple of kids. We're already diverting off the main topic already, but I just had a couple of kids just join my class last week. We opened up a new junior mat, and they came from another karate club, and the parents were quite shocked. You know that you actually they actually do some sparring. You know they
Mhm.
grapple and they try and take each other down to the floor. I was like, well, this is karate. You know, this is what they didn't do any physical contact at all
No.
in their previous club.
I mean,
They were
that's another
shocked at,
question, then, isn't it? Because
yeah,
it's the differentiation of practical karate between kids and adults different. Because I was thinking of it just from a sort of adult perspective.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, you
But
For
tend to
me,
find, I think, that the vast majority of people doing practical karate are in the adult audience. I don't think there are many people, and that would be debatable because I know a lot of practical karateka who run kids'
it's
classes
classes, yeah.
who would say they have
Well,
elements of it in there, but whether that is the goal of the class, I don't know.
yeah. I'm going to say now, I don't particularly like the term practical karate. I've already mentioned that earlier. And I only tend to use it in hashtags just to get traffic towards my videos. I don't describe myself anymore as practical karate. Really, it's just a label I use just to, like I say, just to help promotion.
Mhm.
Um, but my kids class, I teach the kids basically to survive the rough and tumble of the playground.
Yeah.
So I don't teach them self protection. I don't teach them self defense. I just sort of like to think at least that we toughen them up a little bit with a little bit of rough and tumble,
Mm.
which because I always used to think kids are going to be much better off learning judo because that is rough and tumble.
Yeah.
And that's much more practical for them. But now I incorporate striking and grappling, throwing, and groundwork, so a little bit of everything. So, like I say, that's my main objective for the kids. But if we're going to talk about adults, I don't actually teach self-protection anymore, or I don't claim to teach self-protection because I found it is such a massive subject, and it's different for everybody in the class. Everybody's got their different threats, in their everyday life. I felt personally, if I'm trying to teach karate, how can I teach them that as well? It's something that I feel like they needed to go off and research themselves, or maybe attend seminars with somebody who was.
I think if you want to learn self-protection, self-defense, then find something that is geared to that. A karate class isn't, despite what it says on all the flyers, it is such a small part of that. And the general karate class, it's scarcely any of it, other than I will caveat, looking at previous chat of what training used to be like in the adults classes, the ability to take a punch and give a punch on target, fast and hard, is a valuable skill to have still. And it is a benefit still of what we'd call traditional karate training if it's done right with that mindset. So for me, there is still a measure of practicality in what is known as traditional karate, depending upon how it's trained. So you have to define what self-defense and self-protection is.
Well, again, yeah.
And that's not really what we're looking at in a karate
I'd say,
class.
my karate is based in the world of self-protection because it's not sport orientated.
Yeah.
I talk about it a bit. You're totally right, Brian. I mean, any self-protection things I teach, the first thing is what are your threats and all that, which you're not doing on a regular basis in karate. You're teaching a physical thing. But again, it's just being honest, isn't it, about what you're doing, which is still going off the tangent, as we said. But so what was the title of this one?
Practical karate just becoming Bunkai karate.
Well, that is a question. I mean, because everyone suddenly wants to know what the Bunkai is for X, Y, or Z kata, or if you're doing something, it's like, oh, where does that come from? What kata does that come from?
Yeah, and that is a question that you get all the time.
And does it? The real question is, does it matter? And is kata actually useful in this day and age?
Oh, we've said this before. It's the red herring, isn't it? I think
it's a bit. I mean, it suddenly became very, very popular, didn't it, during COVID?
Yeah.
When we had the fact that every fucking man and his wife at every martial arts go, I've come up with this great single person do-it-yourself drill.
It's a drill.
It's kata, mate. We've done that for years.
Yeah.
So, and everyone was trying to sell it.
Yeah.
After slagging karate off for doing it for years. So it's a bit of a.
So I think if you're thinking Bunkai on its own, it's practical karate. Bunkai karate. Bunkai on its own is not practical.
No.
So
but I think what has happened is that, as we were saying, because everybody asked the question, that if you cannot call it kata bunkai, it doesn't exist in the world of karate. If you want it to be practical karate, it has to come from a kata and it has to be an application. And I think this is why we see so much stuff that you see out there is, oh, this is from Naihanchi kata, this is from Teki, this is from Gion, this is from this is from that. And it's grappling work on the ground, or it's fighting up against a wall or on a flight. Whatever you're doing, throwing, locking, choking, whatever, somebody always has to put a kata label on it, otherwise it doesn't exist.
What it does, it gives it validation in the karate world. It's what it does.
But it's
doesn't,
not real, is it?
Yeah. Doesn't have to be linked to kata. No. Like I say, all those things are just they're things that can be found in other systems. They're things that people have been doing for centuries. And it's I think we link it to kata just to give it validation in the karate world.
Yeah, so because you're not a serious practical karateka unless you're doing kata bunkai as the bulk of your training.
Yeah.
Whether that is practicing partner drills or going away and saying, okay, come up with a set of bunkai for this kata for your next grading. well, yeah, all right, you can do that. That's a valid thing. But once you've learned the process, then it becomes irrelevant as to going back, well, I'll do another
And
kata,
that's
different
the whole
Bunkai.
thing, isn't it?
You want to learn the
it's not-
process, and
yeah,
Bunkai is a valuable tool for the process, but it is not the core of
it's not.
practical
Yeah,
karate.
well, that's it. I mean, you've got the bunkai, you've got so many other things you need to do.
Mm.
But I think people get lost in bunkai and do I know bunkai for this, that, and the other? And let's be honest, there's bits of kata that I've not seen anyone come up with something that looks really good for. There's lots of bits you go, oh yeah, that looks good. That makes perfect sense to me. But there are bits that I've never seen anyone come up with something that's like
Bob did
spot
the
on.
knee lift the other day in Hungets.
I did.
Yeah,
It's very practical for closing
Very
car
practical.
doors.
It did the job.
Yeah. There you go. That was some practical karate there, Bob.
It was
Exactly.
highly practical. I had a problem. I solved it using kata.
Always the way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
So-
the two things that you get most with people who do practical karate that's different to how I used to do 3K's or whatever you want to call it is the bunkai and pad work.
Mhm.
Because we didn't used to do a lot of pad work when I started. The only thing you would hit was each other, frankly.
Yeah.
And I've got to be honest, pad work is one of the best things we do because I love
It's-
a good bit of pad work.
Yeah. It's good for letting out a bit of frustration.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, it still has to be done well, though, doesn't it? The pad holder has to
Yes.
know
Which-
what they're doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, now we do, because I still enjoy kata bunkai. You know, I think it's a fun activity, but I don't give it the label of it's practical karate anymore. I do it as a martial art, so it's martial arts training that I call it. And I see myself more as a martial artist rather than a practical karateka.
Mhm.
God, I don't know. It's just dropping those labels. I say I don't like the label anymore. Really, it's a funny old term.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what I don't like. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon, and it doesn't feel that practical to me
No,
anymore.
the problem I have with a lot of the stuff you see, and this takes me into a whole rabbit hole full of stuff that I've talked about many times before, is that whatever drill people come up with, if it could be practical, it could be perfectly functional, but they have to find a shape where it vaguely resembles a kata to say it's an application for, where it patently, when you look at it, isn't. Because while they end up in the shape, if you torture it a bit, of that kata, the mechanics of how they got there is completely wrong for it to have come from kata.
Well, it's interesting how people adapt that to the floor, don't they? Andy's guilty of that. You've done it. You're kidding, boy. You're Hian Showdown on the floor. I'm not saying it's shit because it was good. It was a good drill, but was that really its original intent? Let's say we're just making the shapes,
no,
but
definitely not.
just making the shapes on the floor, and it was the useful linking it to kata because karate people are like it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because then you can go look, and people go, all right, that's fine. That's clever. I mean, the Basai one.
Nobody's ever called you clever, Andy.
That's true.
Or that's clever, not you're clever.
Yeah, that's clever. Who did you steal it from? It's usually it's like, so in Karate Do Koihan, Funakoshi shows the application for this bit, which no one can see on the podcast because it's audio.
So Basai Dai, raising up the hands through the center.
Yeah, the bit where they say, you're storming the fortress and ripping open the gates and all that bullshit that they used to come up with. I mean, and I think his bunkai for that is probably third best, if not worse, than some of the other applications I've seen.
Mhm.
But do you defer to him because he's closer to the source than you, or should you just go, well, actually, I think this is better?
Well, again, that's a different question. Is what are you doing? Are you doing historical reenactment or self-protection?
Exactly.
Are you trying to, as an intellectual exercise, work out what the original meaning of that kata was, or are you trying to extract some useful mechanical information from that kata to enhance what you know in your karate. They're two
I
different
think,
things.
yeah, I agree. And if the thing is, if you could find out what the original meaning was, that could actually be quite useful, because it would actually give you like, oh, well, did these people actually know what they were talking about? Is this relevant? You're never going to be able to find that out. I mean, the closest we got is the babishi, with some of the things in there that you can see that the same in kata, but you're never actually going to find out. So what are you doing? As you were
That's
saying,
actually just a thought that's interesting as well. Is it outdated as well with today's modern criminal? I suppose criminal tactics are quite similar through the years, through the ages. How much has changed really, how people attack and what methods and weapons they use.
Yeah, I laugh at that because, again, a guy I met who was an old biker from the 60s was coming to do an instruction at our first camp.
I remember him, yeah.
Yeah. And he was sitting in the pub with me when I was talking to him before I'd met him to come and join us at camp, was saying, I don't know what's wrong with the young people these days. That they're all carrying knives now. He said, back in my day, a bike chain was perfectly acceptable.
Oh, God. Well, it's fair. It's fair. So that was newfangled at one point, wasn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, a bike chain.
A bike chain, maybe, yeah. There were other bendy pieces of metal linked together.
Well, yeah, but that's it, isn't it? I mean,
a chain is a chain is a chain, effectively. It's just bike chains are cheap and readily available.
But you wouldn't have had them in Okinawa, would you?
You wouldn't have done.
So, it's not very traditional.
It was traditional in the 60s, though, Andy.
Exactly. Wow, exactly.
And I don't know if there's a Bunkai for that.
So, yeah, going back, I think we've drifted off in many tangents there. So, practical karate is Bunkai karate. I probably think so. That's how most people are doing it now. Practical karate. It's certainly not. Well, I do know of people. This is a generalisation, isn't it? Yeah, I say it's a generalisation because I do know of people that do teach self-protection and call themselves practical karate, and others that don't. Their sole focus is Bunkai. Then others are doing other things. So yeah, it's just a term, really, isn't it? Yeah. Practical karate is just a term that people have latched onto.
Well, when I was still teaching, and this is the hypocrite in me, when I was still teaching, and we're talking 5-6 years ago now, in my little club, we were very much kata bunkai based because that was the phase I was going through at the time. But we very rapidly came to the conclusion there, whichever kata we did, we would do some stuff for it because it was an exercise for the students to see if they understood the process. But you very quickly come to the conclusion that it's pretty much all the same. Doesn't matter which kata you study. If you've got the basic principles, and these are my favorite go-to moves, you can make them fit pretty well any kata for any given solution at any time.
As we've proven on many a seminar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that there's a lot of good practical karate people out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there is also some shit. But that's the same for everything. There are also some 3K people out there who are 100% going to outfight a lot of the practical karate people. And again, it's the same as this argument with styles, isn't it? It's about the person,
yes,
not about the label.
Yeah, and the mindset and the
exactly,
and application of the training.
Yep.
So it comes down very much to the individual club, rather than this is the Bunkai karate thing. Practical karate has become Bunkai karate, but there are many people who aren't teaching practical stuff, but are teaching kata bunkai, and they're calling it practical self-defense because they've come up with some drills that work from a kata that if you put them in any, and here we go, street situation would fail almost immediately because the solutions they come up with are very dependent upon dojo problems. And they're not adaptable.
Is anyone going to mention bear hugs just to see if Brian if Bob gets overexcited?
that was
We all
Bob's
know
thing,
that.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
On my medication, I don't get excited about bear hugs anymore, Andy,
Oh,
or anything else for that matter.
that's disappointing.
No, again, nothing. This is the thing. I've been banging on about this for 10 years since I eventually figured it out. And still, virtually every day, I see reels on Facebook of, oh, escape from a bear hug, And people have got the notion now that attacks are not static things. They're dynamic things that happen in a moving, changeable situation.
Fun people.
And then they show you their solution. And the first thing they do is change that dynamic situation to a static situation in order to demonstrate their solution. The issue I have with that is, because we've spoken many times about it, people always complain about a demonstration video. Well, saying, well, that would never work because by the time you've done, but you slow things down, you break it down to do a demonstration. But what these people do is actually change the problem that they're trying to solve between the attack they show and the solution they present. And it's just flim-flammery. It's a shell game.
As long as you get the likes, it's all about the likes now.
I'm
expecting I'm hoping for at least 3 or 4 likes on this video.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be pretty chuffed with that, to be fair.
Just for the cake alone.
The cake alone. Look at that. That's a good little bit.
That's a fairly sticky cake.
It was a good cake.
I'm not sure where it sits on the Stellar scale, but
that was in a cafe in Pukeli, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Does look.
See, I can't remember what I was doing last week at work, but I can remember.
You can remember
where
that
8 years ago, that cake came from a cafe. Well, it's the old railway station cafe in Pukeli.
Uh-huh.
I recommend it to anyone.
Cool. So, going back to what Bob said about a lot of Bunkai is done against a compliant or static partner. I mean, that's a big problem. That would make it not very practical as well, isn't it? Really, you're saying you're doing practical karate if your partner's not moving. And I know sometimes we do, and I do it for a demo, but you've got to have some kind of live. I suppose if there's no live training, if there's no resistance in the training, it can't be practical.
But then you get onto the can of worms that is doing training against resistance, and what is a resistant uki? And is it just an uki who's trying to make it harder and harder and harder for you to do that technique?
Yeah.
And once it fails, then it is no longer practical. Because again, that's not really how it works, is it? People take Bunkai out of context of a physical confrontation.
This is my bugbear. So people go, oh yeah, if you can't do it against a fully resisting opponent, it won't work. You go, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because literally, you change what you're doing. You don't just have, oh, I'm going to do this one thing, and if it doesn't work, I'm fucked. You will change what you're doing.
Well, it's like when I did Japanese jiu-jitsu all those years ago. Jiu-jitsu works, but it's also relatively easy to resist if you know what's coming. But the whole point of everything they did, and I know Vince goes on about this all the time, is that you start with a distraction, you give them something else to think about, and then your clever technique will work because they're not focused on that. So resistance against a single technique or single flow of things that you're doing because you know what's coming, don't take into account that somebody's elbowed you in the head or punched you in the face before they've gone on to do this thing. And also, if this is getting really difficult to do, then I simply switch and do something else.
Exactly.
That's the big thing that I think a lot of people don't do, though. Yeah, it's that. I'm going to use maybe one of John's terms now, the cascade and failure. So if something's not working, just trying to keep fucking doing it, where you should be able to immediately feel that's not right, feel where that path of resistance is, and then go with that. Do you know what I mean? And change it to something that's going to work against that resistance.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's probably where a lot of people get stuck.
Yeah. And then other people will start doing, oh, this will fail, and they keep things failing, and they forget that the first thing you've got to practice good enough. And I think this is probably what Harry Gillen says a lot. Yeah, he's always like, you know, if your first thing isn't going to work in the first place, what the fuck is the point of the rest of it?
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
totally get that point. So you should be training, and when you're being a resistant uke, things should go wrong at different points. You can't just keep people, and that's where you were saying a minute ago, Bri, that you need that live training aspect. So you start actually getting things to work differently. So sometimes the first thing will work, sometimes it won't. It'll be the second thing, or then you have to change because they've.
But I remember, because I'm not going to say you're clever, Andy, but I'm going to say that's clever.
Thanks.
was
Appreciate
one of the things that you used to. One of the first things I got from you was like you would give your students different objectives within the sparring. So like one's got to get an armbar, one's got to get a throw, you know, so they don't know what the other one's doing. And that way they'll try and find the technique within the grappling or within, you know, within their sparring.
Yeah.
And that's a much better way of doing it. Once they've drilled techniques throughout the lessons, like, right, that's the one you're going to try and hit. You can hit other techniques as well, but that's the one you're going to score for, or you're going to win. And then the other opponent's got something completely different to do. You know, so
sorry,
that's clever.
This is where
Andy's not.
This is where the problem with what we're now referring to as Bunkai karate comes in, is it's throwing back to 3K's, which is a collection of techniques. If somebody does A, you do B. Somebody does C, you do D. And now people are collecting Bunkai across 10, 20, 30 kata and trying to hold on to a catalogue of, well, if somebody does this, then I've got a Bunkai for that. It's no fucking use to you at all. No. Outside of the dojo drill that you're doing for that particular Bunkai.
Yeah.
You need a very small handful of things. You need to build a set of triggers in your mind, which you can use Bunkai for, but it's simply to, this is the, no, it's, I've got this tactile feel, this is happening, I do so-and-so, and you just practice that over and over again. And if you've got more than half a dozen Bunkai in your head, that's too many. You haven't got time for a Rolodex of technique. So practicing 1,000 Bunkai from 100 kata is not your thing, really.
Well, really?
Well, again, it depends what you're trying to do, doesn't it? Because if that's, you're doing that to enjoy yourself and you have fun, that's fine. But if you're doing it so that you can go, right, well, if I get attacked, then you're overloading your system.
But this is where the problem comes with thinking of that as practical karate.
Yeah, totally.
Nothing wrong with Bunkai. If that's your label, that I want to understand, I've got all these kata, I want to have something for every move in the kata, and that's what I'm doing. As long as you tell yourself that's what you're doing, that's fine. It's when you're saying, I've got 1,000 Bunkai now, so I'm prepared for any eventuality in a fight.
Exactly.
You're going to go horribly wrong very quickly.
Bullshit of the week this week. Nothing is more harmful to the world than a martial art that is not effective in actual self-defense, which was said by Choki Matobu.
Okay.
Where do you even start with that?
Hands up, anybody who can think of anything more harmful in the world than that.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case. What occurred to me earlier, that hopping around in the bedroom on one foot trying to put your underpants on in the morning is more harmful in the world than a martial art that doesn't work. You've got a far more...
Just to you, Bob.
Well, no. I think if we looked at statistics, that more people hurt themselves in falling over with one leg of their underpants on in their bedroom than ever did by having a failed martial art. It is just absolute bollocks.
What about a martial artist who is a bit of a Prince Andrew, or artist formerly known as Prince Andrew? That's probably more harmful to the world.
He's getting a lot of press, isn't he? Yeah.
He is. I'm going to mention him in every one of these.
But in a martial arts context, yes, many martial arts instructors are more harmful than the martial art that they teach.
Yeah. That's happened in the past, yeah.